Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Ashley Swanson from boosterdesigns.com. And today I want to walk through how to master a really nice looking drop shadow. We see drop shadows all throughout web design, and it's something that I think some people struggle with. And especially if you're using a page builder, it's even harder to incorporate. There's just a couple little tricks, and it's super easy. And I think just with a few things here, you can really implement this and get some awesome looking drop shadows on your website. Before I do that, I want to let you know I do have a newsletter that I send out twice a month, and you can sign up for that in the link below this video description here. And I would love for you to do that. And in that, I basically send out different tips and tricks for Elementor, for just basic web design. Anything that I think is relevant and maybe helpful for you, you can sign up for that. And yeah, it'd be a great way to stay in touch and stay connected. So here's the site that I'm looking at here. I think this is a really nice looking site. I think they do a really good job here with their drop shadow specifically. And so what I'm going to do is we're going to rebuild this in Elementor. And I'm going to kind of walk you through how I do it, and just like I said, a few tips here. And I think you'll pick this up in no time and realize this is really easy. So I'm going to switch over here to Page Builder here. Get rid of that. All right. So what we have here is we need a full column display here, and I'm going to give this a height just for our purposes here. I think it's going to be helpful. We come over here and steal this color and give this a background color then. All right, so there's that gray right there. And then what you can see here is essentially they have another row nested inside here with 3 different columns. So we're going to add that as well. And I'm going to give this then, each of these columns actually, I'm going to give them a background color of white. Delete this last one here. All right. Now you can't see it because there's nothing actually added to that, but we'll get that solved here in just a second here. All right, so now let's go ahead and add just a couple titles here. Oh, that's not where I want you. There we go. All right, what does this one say? It says simple, smart, and fast. Simple. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and measure this and see what our border looks like here. So to do that, I'm going to go from the top of the lettering there, and it looks like we have a height of 45 pixels. So I'm going to go ahead and give this word here a margin of 45 on the top. And beneath it, then, we will also figure out what this is. This looks like 30. So I'm going to give it a bottom border or margin of 30. Okay. So I'm not going to worry too much about making this look exactly like what you see on there, but to get a little bit closer here, we'll make there we go. We're going to duplicate this and duplicate it again. And then drag this over here. Drag this over here. I think it was simple, smart, and fast. So we'll do smart and fast. All right, now real quickly here, I'm going to copy and paste each of these images, or save each of these images real quick here. Save this on my desktop. Now, I don't recommend, obviously, stealing somebody else's images. I'm just wanting to show you here how to go about creating something, specifically the drop shadows. So please don't ever just outrightly steal somebody's design work from their site here. Okay, so now I believe the first one was simple. All right, we're going to, let's take a look, see how big that was. That was approximately 194 width. All right, so we can do that. Let's go ahead and change this to pixels. 194, and it's already centered for us. We'll duplicate. So one thing while I'm doing this, just in terms of workflow, you'll notice here with this one, I set it up so that it was exactly how I wanted it to set up, and then I duplicated it. So what that does is that helps with consistency, but then it also just helps with just streamline your workflow. You don't have to add the margin top and margin bottom to each of these other ones. You already have that set. Same with this. You don't have to set the width to 195. You've already got that set up. So if you can get yourself in the habit of that, I think it makes a lot of sense, and will help your workflow quite a bit. Okay, all right, I'm not going to worry about the button here. I'm just going to go ahead and add this because I don't want to slow everything down here too much. So, all right, just a little bit of text here, text editor, boom, boom. We're going to center this up. Just going to add a little bit of line height just for my own sanity here. Come on, get up one more. There we go. All right. Actually, you know what we could be doing? I could just be copying and pasting, couldn't I? That'd be easier. All right, paste. Okay, so, all right, now we've got this. Here's the trick then. We're going to go ahead and see exactly what the width is on this whole box here. Actually, let's go ahead and just see what the whole size of this box is. Got to start over with that. Come on now. All right. Okay, it looks like we are at 1040 by 523. So we're going to say 525. So we're going to go ahead and make this height. We're going to give this a minimum height here of 520. All right, go to content position, puts everything in the middle here. And since everything's consistent, everything's going to line up properly as well. All right, now we're going to go ahead and restrain this to 1040. Okay, now we've got that. I'm going to have a little bit more height on this just for our purposes here so we can fully see it. Okay, now if I go then, I don't want to do that. Yeah, so this one I can't put the parameters on that actually, because if I put a border around this row or this section, it's gonna be sticking out and it's gonna look really funny, because look what happened here. You see there's a difference here. So if I put a border shadow around the whole thing, and that's what I want the whole intersection. I don't want columns because that's gonna get really goofy. It's gonna the shadow here is gonna be sticking out here, and it's gonna look really silly. So we actually have to make that full. And then what we're gonna do is the containing one. This is the one where we want to contain the content width to 1040. So now we should be much better. Okay. All right. So here we go. We're gonna take this, and then we're going to go to style. We're gonna go to border here. And then we're going to go to box shadow. Okay, so here's one of my things I say a lot, and I'm going to continue to say it. Is don't rely on your page builder's defaults. Now, the page builder default are right here. They're okay. They're not bad. I've seen much worse from other page builders. But I don't like this as a default setting for a couple of reasons. First of all, when we think about drop shadows, what they're doing is they're emulating light. And so when you see what this is saying is the light is coming from directly right above, like right from my computer screen, essentially, right where I'm at, and shining down on it and creating this sort of shadow. Where most of the time in our life, we're used to shadows actually coming from a light source that's up above. And so this feels actually a little bit unnatural. So one of the good things to do here then is we're going to actually increase the vertical drop shadow, and you'll see this actually here on this one. Let me get rid of this. There's not much shadow up here. You can see a little bit, but it's way stronger down here. And that's because that's a normal way that something is going to be lit, and that's going to be normal for how we see an actual shadow in real life. And so I always encourage you, go ahead and bump up our vertical aspect of our shadow here. Then the other thing we're going to do is notice how this is just so smooth, right? It's not real thick, and it's just got a really nice fade to it, and that we can accomplish through the blur, but we can't actually do that and get what we want fully because the spread is too high. So what we have to do basically is actually give ourselves a negative spread until the real thick stuff is actually hiding back here behind this, so you don't see that anymore. And now we can give this a nice blur, and it gives us that better, more natural kind of look. It's a little similar to this. We could actually bring in that even more, I would say. Let's see what happens here. There we go. So I think that actually looks pretty solid. Actually, you know what? So this is where you can kind of play around and mess with it. But the general rule of thumb that I do is I make sure I have the vertical is increased and my spread is usually negative. And then it's just kind of tweaking it to see exactly where you want it. The other thing that comes into factor here is your color and the actual transparency that you're using with the color. To have a more subtle effect, you obviously have to bring down your transparency. I just don't think we have enough blur here, actually. That's getting closer. It's awfully close to that one, actually, yeah. Probably bring down increase our vertical aspect a little more. So you can do that because as you're doing this, your blur is getting stronger, so you're not having as strong of edges, and so it doesn't show up quite as much, which allows you to get away with it. The other thing to note here when you do this is when you add a drop shadow, it's helpful to have a little bit of the color that the shadow is being cast on. Because when you look at a shadow in real life, shadows aren't straight black. Because it's actually this weird thing that's happening where the light is actually reflecting still too off of the very bottom source. And so in this shadow, you would actually see there's a little bit of blue into this gray here. So our actual shadow should have a little bit of that as well. Now this is pretty close to, this is a pretty good gray, so I'm not as worried about that. But let's see if we can try and find a way to make that happen here. One site I really like to use for this is called maketintsandshades.com. And you just grab your hex color and you drop it in here. What it's going to give is going to give you 10 hues darker, 10 hues lighter, which this is so light, there's like nothing happening here. But it's really helpful. And it can give you some good colors to use for a drop shadow that's not this right here, that's straight black. And again, if you're using like a purple or something that's way more strong, this practice would actually be a lot more beneficial than here on this one that's already pretty gray with just a little bit of blue hue to it. So yeah, there's that. Let me go ahead and show you what I'm talking about with that coloring, because I think that's important to really mastering drop shadows. So we're going to go ahead and change this to this purple, which actually works because there's some purple in here. And then I'm going to go in here and we're going to tweak our drop shadow here using that same method that I was talking about. All right, so we're going to here's the purple, right? So one thing you could do is if you wanted, you could just drop it down in here. And you see, if you look in here, right here. I mean, this is really dark, but there's a little bit of purple, and that just creates a nicer shadow, a little more natural looking shadow than to have just straight black. So that's where I think good designers become great designers, is when they start to notice these little bitty nuances with things and really begin to implement them into their overall designs. And that's where things start to get really strong and you begin to stand out from a lot of other designers that are out there. So hopefully this helps for you. I really encourage using Elementor. It's a great page builder. And if you have any questions, please reach out, let me know. I'm happy to help however I can. And again, reminder, sign up for my newsletter and the link below, or just visit my site. I'm going to be populating that more and more with different tips and tricks to design, and also Elementor, because I love building websites with it. So thank you so much for your time.